Hello, and welcome back to another AP Sports podcast. Wow, I guess it is another podcast. We haven't done one of these in a minute. Today, we're going to be going through the Eastern Conference, just our rankings for the standings and which teams have improved enough to move up in our lists, and really just our power rankings coming into the season. This is something we can look back at the end of the season just to see how well we did with our predictions. But I guess, Peyton, do you want to start, and then we can go me, Beach?
Sure.
Or does that work?
So we're going east, right?
East first. So,
All right.
and we'll start 15. Obviously, go all the way up. So, don't
So
say
we're
your
starting at 15.
Yeah, that would be more interesting, I think.
Okay.
15-1.
At 15, I have the Pistons. They're not a bad team, honestly. Just the East has a ton of teams kind of towards the bottom. None of them are particularly awful.
There's one that sticks out.
The Pistons had a lot of moving parts this offseason. I think Dwayne Casey's actually a good coach, and I think Blake Griffin's going to be good, but I don't know how healthy he's going to be. So I had them at 15. I honestly now, thinking about Blake, I could see them being like 13, but they're not a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree. Blake, I think, is very good. That's why they're not last for me. I have Cavs last. They really didn't do anything. Let's be real. They got Okoro, who I think is very good, but is he really going to improve their team enough to make any noise at all? I don't think so. They have no real pieces. If Okoro can become what I think he can, I think they'll be decent down the road. But right now, they're just so unknown, and I really don't think they're going to do anything but stay where they did last year at last place. So, Beach?
At 15, I had the Pistons too. It just seems like they have a lot of – I like Blake and Derrick Rose. Both of their health really is kind of up in the air every year, it seems like. And those are also two guys that could be really trade candidates. And I think that if one of them gets traded, they're kind of really just going to be bottom feeders. And I think if they both stay, they'll still be bottom feeders too. I just feel like they have a lot of random players. I like what they did in the draft with Sadiq Bey. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big Killian Hayes fan. Their entire starting lineup is essentially different. They threw a ton of money at Jeremy Grant, a ton of money at Mason Plumlee. So it's kind of hard to see which direction they're going in. So they just need to kind of build up some chemistry, get some familiarity with each other, play some games, kind of discover which young guys are going to roll with, and which veterans are going to roll with down the road. So with that being said, I see them being the last seed with all that.
Yeah, take a shot at Cade Cunningham. So.
Yeah.
All right, Peyton?
Next year's draft's going to be good.
14,
yeah, it will be.
I have the Charlotte Hornets. Now, last season I thought they were going to be kind of towards the bottom. But, they actually proved to be pretty decent last year. But I'm going to be honest, I just do not like LaMelo. Now, I don't think that he's a very efficient point guard.
Is he going to run point off the bat? Will Devontae go to shooting guard, or has he always been a shooting guard?
I don't know what the deal with Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham will be, but I feel pretty confident that LaMelo Ball is going to start. You don't draft a guy third not to start him.
True.
I don't really like him there. I can say with certainty they're not a playoff team. Basically these bottom, I guess, really 4 or 5 teams for me were just they're not making the playoff teams. So I've got the Hornets at 14, although I do think, honestly, they probably will win more games than I have slated for them, but I think the addition of Gordon Hayward doesn't add much when he gets these little knick-knack injuries every other week.
All right. For me, 14, I had the Pistons. Like you guys said, not going to go too in-depth, but I think that they'll definitely be better than the Cavaliers with Blake. Honestly, he looked very good preseason, and 2 years ago, he's a good player, actually. It's just his health is the biggest question. So, and Killian Hayes is a great player. I think he's going to help them a lot. I don't know. I like the Pistons. I think they actually are moving in the right direction, but it's definitely, this isn't the year for them. This is a year for them to get a good draft pick again and kind of continue to rebuild.
At 14, I have the Cavs. The only reason I put them over the Pistons is because they seem like they have more of a kind of like direct path. Like their lineup kind of makes sense. They have some question marks in there with Kevin Love, obviously a guy that probably doesn't want to be there. And then Andre Drummond, who picked up his player option. He's getting paid there. I just don't see them making any noise. They haven't like finished higher than the 13 seed in the East ever since LeBron left. It doesn't seem like they really added much. I mean, they brought in JaVale McGee. I don't know how much that'll help. And then, of course, they brought in Okoro, who I'm here and there with. I feel like he has a pretty low floor, but he looked pretty solid in the preseason. So if they can just continue to develop the young talent they got, then I think – and also if they can get some assets for Kevin Love before it's too late, because he's getting up there in age, and he's not like – doesn't seem like a very durable guy, then – I mean, I guess they're going in a good direction. I mean, just keep developing that young talent, and they'll be fine.
Yep. And so kind of moving on to 13, I have the Cavaliers. I don't think they're much better than either of the two teams I have below them, and the Hornets and Pistons, but I do think they're headed in the right direction, kind of. This year drafting Okoro, who I think is a good piece to have, and apparently Darius Garland's put on weight and has looked a lot better, so I mean, at least they're moving in the right direction, so I gave them kind of some bonus points for that. But I don't necessarily, I don't think they're going to be very impressive this year unless they're playing some of these other bad Eastern Conference teams.
Yeah, they have a couple good pieces. All these teams at the bottom are like they're moving in the right direction. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily that they're just a blatant like horrible team, like they
Well,
all
some of
are
them
in
are
that
horrible
rebuild
teams.
process. What?
But some of them are horrible teams, but
I
they're
mean,
still
yeah,
moving
but
in the right
they
way.
have a future, like
Yeah.
yeah, they're bad teams, but they're horrible because they're rebuilding, not just because they tried to rebuild and they failed.
Yeah,
So
horrible with optimism.
yeah. All right. So 13 for me. I got the Hornets. Peyton, you kind of laid it out. I do think, although Gordon Hayward has the injury concerns, I mean, the finger thing was overreaction. He's actually going to play starting first game of the season. I
Good team.
think he's a. I think he's a. Do you have him on your fantasy team?
Yeah, I don't know why, but he's starting for me.
He's on there somewhere. Dude, I don't know. Gordon's a very good player when healthy. LaMelo, I don't love him, but I mean, I have to give credit. He looked pretty decent when it comes to playmaking. I mean, I don't ever think he'll be anything special as a scorer, but playmaking wise, he's going to help create for others. And I think Devontae Graham will take a step forward. I really like PJ Washington too. I think he's one of the more underrated rookies from the 1920 class. He's got a lot of potential. And I mean, they don't have the worst coaching staff in the league. So they're also in the right direction, and I like where they're headed.
At 13, I have the Knicks. They're a team that I think improved definitely. They lost. I mean, they didn't really lose anyone notable. I mean, I guess Bobby Portis, Taj Gibson, but I think they had a really good draft for a franchise like that. Big Obi Toppin fan. He fell, in my opinion. They brought in Quickly too, who's looked good in the preseason. Then they brought in Noel, Alex Burks, and then they brought in someone else. I can't remember. Austin Rivers. They brought in Austin Rivers. So I just feel like with Coach Tom Thibodeau, I think he's a guy that's not going to like finish like dead last. I feel like the Knicks are roster wise aren't great. RJ Barrett's looked better. He's improved. They have a lot of young pieces that need to show some stuff too, like Dennis Smith Jr., Kevin Knox. I feel like kind of they're both out of the door too. So I think this is definitely a season where you're just going to evaluate the talent you have and kind of move forward from there. But I think they're still going to be really fun to watch, especially with Obi Toppin. My pick for Rookie of the Year. So, yeah, with that being said, I got the Knicks at 13.
All right.
I actually have the Knicks at 12, so kind of to expand on what Braden said, basically the same thing. I don't think Tom Thibodeau is going to allow this team to finish that poorly. I mean, he's going to play as starters for, the longest. But they do have a lot of pieces sort of moving in the right direction. I don't like Knox, and I don't think Dennis Smith has all that much left. We kind of know what he is as a player, and it's just the Knicks are in a weird spot because I feel like they do have some decent, veteran type guys in Austin Rivers. And they're just in a very weird spot because I don't feel like they have that like future star. RJ Barrett, some people could say I don't necessarily think he's a star necessarily. but I hope the Knicks can be good just because, I mean, you feel bad for a team that's been bad for that long. So they're my 12.
All right. I don't know if I want to put them this low. This is tough. I have the Pacers at 12. Um, I just don't think they did anything. They really didn't. I mean, does Victor Oladipo even want to be there? They have so many. They're one of the most questions in the league. Miles Turner doesn't want to be there. Sabonis is great, but I mean, I don't know. They fired their coach too, so they're in a very unstable like time period right now. I don't think they really know what they're doing. They're kind of just putting pieces together. They're kind of relying a lot on TJ Warren too. Like if TJ Warren doesn't play like he did in the bubble, they are a clear one of the worst teams. I mean, I know they have Sabonis, but they don't have anything else. Literally, they don't have anything else. So it sucks to put them this low, but these teams like the Knicks and the Magic and the Bulls, like they have growing potential and it's like they have a decent roster. It's not just two players they're relying on to play extremely well. So that's why I got the Pacers at 12, but that's low, and
That's disrespectful, dude.
I
They
can
got some
see
killers.
10.
Yeah,
All right,
they're much higher on my list.
really?
Where
Okay.
are we? What is this number 12?
This is 12.
Number 12, I have the Chicago Bulls.
Damn.
Wow.
They're going in a great direction. Don't get me wrong. I just think all the other teams are better than them. They got rid of Garpax. Jim Boylan's gone. This season's gonna be really interesting. Kind of the main focus of this season's gonna be like the front office, the fans. Everyone's gonna find out whether or not last season's Bulls underachieved or not. They're gonna see how bad. We're gonna see how bad of a coach Boylan was. We already know he's trash, but I mean they were horrible offensively. I feel like defensively they're gonna probably like. They look like they're going to allow like 200 points a game. Like they have no defense. Kobe White can't defend. Zach LaVine can't defend. Y'all starting Patrick Williams or Otto Porter?
We don't know yet. We started Otto for a couple preseason games. Then we switched to Patrick Williams, and we looked a lot better. So I'm expecting Patrick Williams. Also, Otto gave us some stuff off the bench. So I'd say
Yeah,
Patrick
either way,
Williams.
whoever's starting at your small forward between those guys can be your best defender. With Laurie also not a great defender, and Wendell Carter's. I mean, he could be a good defender, but he's just hardly playing. Like he's been on the floor. I mean, he was injured pretty much all last year. It felt like they added Patrick Williams. It seemed like a stretch at 4, but I mean, I think he's been producing well for him. And then Garrett Temple brings a great voice in the locker room, kind of to lead those young guys. Who I mean, they're gonna be a fun team to watch. Like I said, going in a great direction with Billy Donovan and Arturas Karnisovas.
Yeah.
That's his name. Practice that one a lot. But yeah, I think the front office is looking good. Got some great young talent. Future's bright. But I think it'd be better if you guys, looked into the 2021 draft.
Yeah, I got
class.
a good draft. But
So
Hopefully.
that's the most respectful way I could put it. But yeah,
I get it.
I could see them. I mean, I could see them. Like I picked them making the playoffs last year. I could see that happening this year, but the most realistic position for them, in my opinion, is at 12.
All right. Understandable.
At 11, I have the Hawks. Now, for some, I understand this might be low, and people are really high on them being a playoff team and stuff. But
Jeez.
I mean, you've got to realize they still need some time to mature. It's a super duper young roster. Adding Gallinari is definitely going to help. Capella being healthy obviously is massive. They're not a bad team, but just I don't really like the Hawks defensively that much outside of Capella. I don't think their perimeter defense is all that great. I definitely think Gallinari adds a little bit off the bench, but I don't really know if I don't know how I feel about the John Collins situation. I don't know if that's going to be a trade midway through the year, or if they're looking to kind of extend him after this season. And so I have the Hawks at 11 with the potential to rise. I don't really believe in their coach either. He's younger. It's just that they need more maturity, I think, if they're going to be a playoff team, whereas the Pacers have consistently been a playoff team, the Magic as well, and they kind of know how to win games.
Well, yeah, but the Pacers also fired their head coach. Like, I don't know. It's just the
saying
Pacers
those
are so unstable right now.
Those are teams that have been there and done that, whereas the Hawks have been pretty atrocious for the last a little bit.
All right. Well, I'll get to them a little later, but for me at 11, I've got the Knicks. You guys brought up a lot of good points. Not much else to add. I think RJ is going to take a big step forward. I love Mitchell Robinson too. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to allow their defense to be very, very good. And if RJ can figure out some sort of shot, and I mean, honestly, he looked, other than his shooting, he looked very good in the preseason. And if he can advance his shooting even a little bit, I think he's going to be really good. So I mean, you guys kind of put it all out there. That's why I got the Knicks at 11.
I just don't think there's any universe, any way that there's like that the Knicks finish above the Pacers. I don't see how that can happen.
Yeah, I don't either.
The Pacers are
Maybe
significantly
who knows,
better.
though.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I just that just baffles me to a degree, respectively.
I know it was definitely tough to put him that low, but I don't know. I think that firing your head coach before you go into a season where all your players are like kind of like, do I even want to be here? It's not a good situation locker room wise.
Yeah.
So
We'll
that's
get
why
there.
I got him there. But
I mean,
Go
they
ahead,
have an
Peach.
all-star and the Knicks don't, though. Like, I know that's not everything, but, like,
does their like all star
The
even want to
Knicks,
be there?
the Knicks don't have anyone even like approaching all-star level. The
yeah.
Pacers, you can say they have like 4 or 5 guys that can average over like 16 points and still give you some good defense. So
I just think I'm valuing their locker room a lot. I value all locker rooms a lot and just chemistry and a lot. Like there's been so many rumors about Knicks
well, there are no
player or
egos
not
on that
Knicks.
team. There are like no big egos at all on that
I
team.
mean,
Yeah.
Oladipo, low
He's like the
key.
nice dude I could like. He
I'm
seems
not
like
saying you can be a nice guy and have an ego. I'm just saying he definitely thinks he's a very, very good player. He
and
wants
that's
the
why it's good to
ball.
have guys like T.J. Warren, Sabonis was an all-star, Malcolm Brogdon. I don't
I
know.
worry if TJ Warren can continue it up. I don't know. There's a
It
reason
doesn't
he
even matter
hasn't been
because
averaging 20 every season.
even if he averages like 15, he's just like a scorer. I mean, that's all he needs to do. We'll get to it.
We'll hear your thoughts then, but who do you got at 11?
Oh, it's what did Peyton go?
Nah, it's you.
It's me. All right, at 11, I had the Hornets here. The Hornets are a team I really like. I can really see them making the playoffs. I think they had like their best offseason maybe ever. They gave Hayward a lot of money. I still think Hayward's great. Um, they definitely overpaid him, but how else are you going to get a free agent to start Charlotte? Drafted LaMelo Ball. Like I said, LaMelo Ball was going to turn the Charlotte Hornets into a really fun team to watch. And they're going to, be that annoying team on Bleacher Report, kind of like the Pelicans were last year. No offense, Peyton. But he's going to get that Zion treatment, of course. He's going to do the cool passes, shoot like 15%. But,
Zion's gonna shoot
Facts.
15%. Okay, he's like 8.
they,
He's
no,
not
that's
comparing LaMelo to Zion. It's just a situation.
Okay, good.
but they got Batum's contract out of the way. And, they brought in Hayward's contract, so we don't know how that's going to pan out yet. But they went from a team. I mean, last year people were saying they were going to be horrendous. Probably everyone picked them pretty much to be the 15th seed in the East. They proved a lot of people wrong with like a significantly worse team. I'd say that they have this year. So I think they have a lot of room to grow with Devontae Graham. I like Terry Rozier, two really good closers right there. So they went from a team that was looking at another like lower tier, like finishing season, to a team that can like really make a run at the playoffs, and they looked like they could make the playoffs last year, especially with the teams that were in it. So in my opinion, I say they could be a playoff team, but I just like the other teams above them a little bit more. So that's what I'm saying.
All right.
All right.
Did you say their best offseason ever or the best offseason ever?
There.
Their best
Thank
offseason.
God. I was like, what? Okay, Peyton, go ahead.
At 10, I have the Bulls. I want the Bulls to succeed just because, Archer's a big fan. But
It's
I think
okay.
that's as far as Zach LaVine can kind of take them. I know Billy Donovan's new and everything, and Kobe White's looked good at moments in the preseason, but also has looked pretty inconsistent. It's a team that, they're clearly getting a lot of things right. They've got Wendell Carter, Patrick Williams, Kobe White, Zach LaVine. I mean, all those guys are great players. But once again, I kind of value the been there, done that thing, and the Bulls have not been to the playoffs, and they have not really done anything. This is still a position for them to be in the play-in, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like they don't have a shot at the playoffs. But the Bulls are a good team. got a new, significantly better coach. Even if Billy Donovan was bottom 25% of the league, he'd be better than Jim Boylan. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the Bulls.
Yeah, I have the Bulls as well. I couldn't really put them any higher. Just the East has improved a lot, especially the Wizards and the Hawks. But I think the Bulls have had one of the best off seasons. They've definitely had their best off season in years, decades. So I'm very excited. I think Billy Donovan, the biggest part about him is he's a player's coach, and that's what the Bulls kind of need. They also need somebody who can kind of open things up for Kobe, who's a developing point guard. So this season, I think a lot of Bulls fans are expecting us to make the playoffs, but I think this is more of a we'll see. Bulls Twitter is not very fun to be on, so uh, I think that this is more of a test it out and see what happens here. I'm very excited to see what Kobe can do. I think he can be a good point guard if Billy allows him to kind of stay out there and play make. So I don't want to get too in depth, but Zach can only take us too far, and our defense is atrocious. So I can't put us any further up than this. So, Beach.
At 10, I had the Atlanta Hawks. Peyton did a good job describing how I was really feeling about this team. But I know you take the preseason with a grain of salt. My Grizzlies played them twice. The Hawks looked really bad. I know it right now. For now, it's a chemistry seasoning thing for the young guys and the new guys that they're bringing in. They brought in like 9 new guys. They had a really good offseason, like on paper, with Bogdanovich. He could be a closer for them. Chris Dunn, great defensive guy. Rajon Rondo, good locker room guy. Gallinari, of course, that's a big one. And they had a good draft with the Kongwu and stuff. But they're just a team that they don't really seem like they play with an edge, with a sense of urgency. They have like essentially no defense. DeAndre Hunter did look good in the preseason. Again, take it with a grain of salt. I like Lloyd Pierce, the veterans they added, but it's just I know the chemistry and stuff's going to build, but I just don't see like this team just didn't look good in the preseason. They didn't. I don't think that the sense of urgency is there to make a run at the playoffs. I can see them being fun to watch for sure. But just the culture they have down there, they haven't won anything in a minute. I don't think Trae Young is a winning player, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan on him. John Collins I like, but again, the defense isn't there. I can see them making the playoffs, of course, if they develop everything through the season, which most likely will happen. But in my opinion, I don't see them making the playoffs, and I see them being the 10 seed.
All right, Peyton.
At 9, I'm not entirely sure how the play-in works, but I know this is, of course, one of those play-in spots. And here I have the Pacers. Now, the Pacers did get a new coach, and I'm fairly certain he is, like, from Iceland, which is sort of cool.
Bjorn or something weird.
I'm also relatively certain that he was on the same coaching staff as Nick Nurse at one point. So that always bodes well for someone. And so it's sort of a weird hire. I've never really heard of him. He's spent some time in the G League. It's weird, and as Archer said, Miles Turner wants out. Oladipo's got that whole contract situation. But at the end of the day, it's not a team I'm really worried about. They do have a lot of talent. Malcolm Brogdon, Victor Oladipo, Domantas Sabonis, who is an all-star. So they have 2 at least former all-stars on this team, which, is better than basically every team under them. So at some point, talent wins games, and all those players clearly, they win regular season games. That's what they did last year. So I have the Pacers at 9.
All right. For me, I'm making a quick audible here. I don't know. It's tough, but I think I'm going to have to put the Hawks at 9. I had them at 8. I really like the Hawks. I think they had a fantastic offseason. Definitely one of the best of anybody this year. They added a lot of depth, a lot of good veteran knowledge, like Rajon Rondo. You kind of said it all, Beach, but one of the bigger – well, I don't know about bigger, but I brought this up in my Hawks video. They got Nate McMillan, who might seem like a smaller ad, but I like it a lot. It helps their young head coach kind of get a little bit of veteran knowledge, especially a guy like McMillan who's consistently making the playoffs every year. So it's tough to put them low. I think if Onyeka comes out and develops into a good player off the bench, especially with Capella there, he's a great defender, and him and Trey on the pick and roll is going to be crazy good, I think. I'm very excited to watch the Hawks, but the guys ahead of them are a little bit more established and they have more chemistry. This team was thrown together at the last minute, it kind of seems like, and the John Collins thing. So I've got to put them at 9. I can't put them any higher. All right, Beach.
At 9, I have the Orlando Magic, a team that it's always you can always count on them to be really average. But you never really count them out. I think they got a lot better. Added Cole Anthony's been killing it. Cole Anthony's looked really good. I don't know what the timetable is for Jonathan Isaac. I know he tore his ACL, and that's a long injury. But with that being said, I'm not 100% sure if he has any chance of returning this season. Hopefully he does, especially by playoff time. But they added they're going to have Chuma Okeke, who don't know a lot about. They drafted him in the lottery last year, I'm pretty sure. So that should be fun. They didn't really get rid of anyone significant. Maybe they lost DJ Augustine. I don't know how big of a deal that's going to be, especially with Cole Anthony being back. But they're a team, like I said, really average, 8 seed last year. I feel like Markel Fultz is going to have a breakout year. And either him, Aaron Gordon, Mo Bamba, one of them is going to kind of break out. I just don't see them do anything special. I don't see him really surprising anyone. I can't see him anywhere higher than like an 8 or 7 seed, really. So with that being said, I have him at 9.
Yeah, I have the Magic at 8 actually. They're a very, they're typically a pretty mundane team. I'm never really clicking to turn on Magic games, but honestly, this year I might. There's a lot of intrigue with Cole Anthony. He looked great, as Braden mentioned. Also, Chuma Okeke's a guy that
Yes.
he was drafted last year, of course, and then had that season-ending injury in like March Madness or something, so he was out for all of last year. But it's going to be an entertaining team to say the least, at least for this season. And Markel Fultz obviously is on there too. So defensively, it's a very good team, even without Jonathan Isaac. And I'm looking forward to a solid year for the Magic at the 8th seed.
Yeah, I feel you. I don't know what just happened, but
Yeah, boys. All right, keep going. Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
What is it, 9?
It's 8.
It's 8? Oh, my bad. Yeah, I have the Magic. Beach said it. They are very average, but at the same time, they're very put together. They've got Isaac. Mo Bamba, I think, is going to play a little bit better this year. I really like Markel. Cole Anthony's looking great. They've got some good pieces, and obviously Vucevic is a very, very good offensive player. So all in all, I think they can put it together. It's going to be pretty much the same they did last year, though, kind of edge into that 8 seed. I can see the Hawks maybe making a little bit of a effort to get there, but I think that the Magic are going to finish over them at the end of the day. So.
At my 8 seed, I had the Pacers here. I feel like y'all are kind of sleeping on them. They literally did nothing essentially this offseason. I mean, they got rid of TJ Leaf for like Jalen LeCue. I think that's the biggest move they had. And of course, they fired McMillan. But they just have a lot of great talent. They're kind of banking on everybody staying healthy with Oladipo. They're going to have Jeremy Lamb back, who I think is actually really good, Jeremy Lamb. Other than that, I feel like I covered it all kind of in rebuttal to Archer, but I'll kind of go over it again. They have a lot of guys, like 4 or 5 guys that can average 16 points per game. They don't really have any holes. Good bench. They're starting to shoot a lot more threes, which is cool. Malcolm Brogdon said they're going to shoot a lot more. I mean, everybody's really overlooking this team. They overachieve a lot. Obviously, we always say, if Oladipo can be back to his most improved season kind of stuff. But that's a big if, in my opinion. So if that can happen, they'll for sure be higher than 8. But if they continue, even if they play like they did last year without Jeremy Lamb and without a lot of the guys they had, then I still think they're going to be a playoff team, and that's why I have them at 8.
Yeah, the Pacers just – they, like you said, they didn't do anything, and they got rid of their coach, and they have locker room issues a little bit with the contract dispute with Oladipo and Miles Turner winning out.
I just don't think that's a big deal
I
at
don't
all.
think it is.
I guess I value that more than you guys, but we'll see what happens when the
Um,
season kicks off.
So number 7, I have the Wizards. I mean, this one I want to make it short and sweet. They have 2 All Stars. I know Bradley Beal wasn't actually an All Star last year. They've got 2 All Stars, and it's not going to take Russell Westbrook long to adjust to the Wizards. Scott Brooks was his coach in Oklahoma City for a little bit, so I don't see that team not being in the playoffs with Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Exact same points. I think Rui is going to take a step forward. He is going to miss the first 3 weeks of the season with some sort of virus. It's not COVID, but something weird happened. I don't know. I saw it on what's it called? Twitter. So we'll see what happens with them. They're definitely going to make the playoffs. I would be extremely surprised if they didn't. Other than injury, this team is solid and they can do something. They can definitely make the 7. I honestly think that they might be able to do something in the playoffs. I mean, Bradley Beal's a great player, and Russ, I mean, he had a really tough playoffs last year, but he's not going to just disappear, I don't think. So,
Yeah, at 7, I have the Wizards too. A team that I really think could be higher, but at this point right now, I don't see them being higher than like the Raptors, Celtics, all them, that echelon. But I see them really rapidly approaching that. I don't know if it was Russell Westbrook's like brother or his friend or someone close to him said like this is the first time in like 3 years that he's been like at peace with himself. Like he's enjoying himself in Washington. He's got a good team around him. Like Peyton said, 2 All-Stars. Russell Westbrook makes all his teammates better. The narrative that he doesn't is just objectively false. They also added in Denny, a guy who can do a lot of stuff. He's looked really solid in the preseason. I'm gonna say in the preseason a lot, but take that with a grain of salt, of course. I mean, I felt like they were gonna be really good with John Wall, a healthy John Wall, and Bradley Beal kind of in the backcourt, leading the team they had. I saw them like being 4 or 5 seed maybe. And I think Russell Westbrook could be better than John Wall this season. And I just think that the impact that he's going to have on the teammates around him is going to be more than what John Wall's was. But because we haven't seen him play like at all with them really much, that's why I'm hesitant to put him above 7. But I really can see them making that jump, and they're 100% making the playoffs. I'd be very surprised if they don't.
Me too.
So yeah.
All right, Peyton.
Coming in at 6, I've got the Raptors. Really well-coached team. It was hard for me to put them this low. But, you know, when you have that great a team going to the finals, and even last year, you have a lot of those role guys on some smaller deals, and you're able to pick kind of guys up throughout the year. They signed a lot of those guys. I know OG and Van Vliet got contracts. But the Raptors are continuing to, you know, build from basically within their system. Now with Matt Thomas being up from the G League, I really like him. And I have no doubt that the Raptors will be a tough out regardless who they play in the playoffs just because of incredible coaching and all their players have really high motors. So I'm looking forward to a good season from the Raptors.
Yeah, I have the Raptors to 6 too. Same points as you had. I think Pascal after his playoff debacle, that kind of sucks, but he's definitely not a bad player. He is a very good player actually. So
Hopefully, he had a new move to his bag. Maybe
hopefully it's not just the spin he's been doing, but I think that maybe he learned that you can't just do that every time in the playoffs. So maybe he did put a little work in on the offseason. So yeah, I got the same points as you do, Peyton. I have them at 6.
Yeah, I have the Raptors at 6 too.
Yeah,
I think they got worse though. They lost Gasol, Ibaka, and Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. They added Bainsey though and Bembry, 2 guys that are cool. They lost a little bit of their depth, but that's going to let some of their other depth, like young guys like Terrence Davis. They drafted Malachi Flynn, who I like. He's been good. Then of course you got the dogs and Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Siakam, of course. So you really can't complain. I just think the other teams are going to be better. You'd never count this team out. They're playing in Tampa Bay, which will be interesting. Their players are going to have a warm winter for once. I don't know how that's going to affect anything. It's definitely not. Don't really know how I said that.
Pretty sure it's inside.
But, I mean, there's not really much to say about the team, except for they got a little bit worse. So that's why I have them kind of moving down from 6. They were my they were my pick for the finals last year. But losing Gasol and Ibaka, I think, is going to hurt. But I still think they're going to be a great team, especially with Kyle Lowry.
All right.
Picking back from where we left off at number 5, I've got the Sixers at 5. They moved Al Horford this offseason, which was obviously, you know, pretty big from a contract standpoint. They got Seth Curry, who I think adds a lot of shooting, headed in the right direction. Um, so hopefully, they can sort of move on from, whatever they were trying to do last year. I like Doc Rivers as a coach. I think he's going to be better than Brett Brown was, and hopefully that means more improvement, particularly in the playoffs, because they do have a really talented roster.
All right. I got Sixers as well. I really, really like Ben Simmons. I think he can be extremely, extremely good this season, especially with some more shooting around him. Obviously, Joel. I don't really have much else to add. I like Doc. So, Beach.
At 5, I have the Celtics. I'm kind of worried about the Celtics. They got worse, like significantly. Out of all the teams, out of all the contending teams in the East, they got worse. They added Tristan Thompson.
I think he's an upgrade from Tice, honestly.
Tice is going to start still. Tice is really good.
I don't like
and then
Tice
Neesmith and Pritchard in the draft. Okay, they lost Gordon Hayward. That's pretty big. Especially Kemba Walker's going to be out for a minute too. They only have like 3 guys, like Tatum Brown and Marcus Smart. Outside of them, it's really iffy. It's like their bench has never really been great. Jeff Teague's going to be their starting point guard until like further notice, essentially. They lost Canner too. They lost Brad Wanamaker, so they don't really have a backup point guard now. They're bench-wise, they're relying on a lot of young guys too. So I'm kind of worried about them. Again, they got worse. So I have them at 5.
All right, Peyton.
That could be a little low.
Quattro.
4, I have Celtics. I actually do agree with Braden on a lot of that. I am also kind of worried about the Celtics. I know preseason I tried not to take it into account, but they looked horrendous during the preseason. They were shooting like I think a league worst percentage-wise in the preseason, so that obviously is concerning. But they have so much talent in their starting lineup. I think that can win them some regular season games. Playoffs, though, I don't know how confident I am in this team until they get Kemba Walker back, like Braden was saying. I would say this team doesn't necessarily lose a lot not having Hayward, as we basically saw him last year in the playoffs without Hayward. So compared to last playoffs, bubble season or whatever it is, I don't think they really got worse since then, just because Hayward wasn't playing then.
No,
obviously,
in the bubble.
Obviously, if Hayward was healthy, that would have been ideal. But while they were in the playoffs, he wasn't even healthy. So,
had you finished up, Peyton, or did I interrupt?
No, that's good. I was just going to say Tristan Thompson's solid.
What was your counterpoint?
Okay, and then also, I think that like Brad Stevens can kind of make that work though, if anyone can. So yeah, with that being said, I mean I can see them at 4 too.
Yeah, I got Celtics 4 as well. I think their bench is horrible. That's a big, big problem for me. They really don't have any depth at all. They're relying a lot on just a couple players, although I do think Tatum is good enough to rely on. Is he going to help them win in the playoffs that much? Is he that good? And that's just a question that I don't like having that sort of a question at the beginning of your season. Obviously, when Kemba comes back, I think that they will improve heavily. And Jaylen Brown is an incredibly good player. So with all that said, 4 is a good spot for them. I'm worried, though, if they can really succeed in the playoffs. So
Tatum's going to put up some numbers, though.
Oh, I know he is, but is it going to be enough with that horrible bench? Like,
no,
I don't know.
It's not.
Exactly.
But Tatum's going to put up crazy numbers.
Hopefully.
So at 4, I have the Miami Heat. They just made the finals. Obviously, a great team. In my opinion, losing Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill and Derek Jones, those are some like locker room guys. They added Avery Bradley. They kind of bolstered up on defense. I like Bradley. Precious Achua from Memphis. I got to watch him a lot in college. He's a dog too. They still got a good mix of youth and veterans, Jimmy Butler, and the guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. I could see taking a leap, especially Hero. And then they locked up Goran Dragic. So their veterans are good. I mean, they have a good team. They have a good bench. I'm not really worried about them. I just see the other 3 teams being better than them. Another team you can't count out. Their culture's great. Spoelstra's great. Pat Riley's great. So yeah, I got him at 4.
All right, Peyton,
All
Twa.
right, moving on to 3. Beach, I think it's a little bold to have the Sixers at 3, but we'll get there when we get there. They could even be higher than 3. I don't know. But I have the Heat at 3. You know, Braden brought up the culture. Obviously, that's a big part of it. I would say the reason I gave them the nod over some of these other teams, they're not necessarily a regular season team, but they are going to be great in the playoffs, and so I just kind of gave them an edge for that reason.
Who said I had the
Um,
Sixers at 3? By the way,
you do?
who said no? Who said I did?
You
Oh
have them
my,
higher than 3?
We'll see.
It's a bit bold. I
damn.
like the confidence, I guess. But I have the Heat at 3. You know, solid team, solid players, great culture. Really looking to a good year from Bam Adebayo with his big contract, and that's kind of all I have to say about the Heat.
All right, I got the same points. I got Heat at 3. Very similar lists, unfortunately, but they look great. I think Jimmy is going to establish. I mean, I still think people have questions that he's a top 10 player, and he is 100% a top 10 player in my book. So I think he's going to prove that this season. I'm really excited to watch him play. I love Jimmy. So, Beach, he definitely has Sixers at 3. He's trying to throw you off, Peyton.
I do. I have the Sixers at 3.
Ah,
They must listen to me because they added shooters now. They got shooters. Danny Green, Seth
exactly.
Curry, great additions. Got rid of Al Horford. That never worked out for them. They drafted some great. They had a great draft, in my opinion. I think Tyrese Maxey fell.
So
Adam
far.
going in the lottery. Then Isaiah Joe is a good shooter. I don't know if he'll play much for him. Added Dwight Howard too. Gives him some bench depth at center. I just think Doc Rivers as a coach, especially regular season wise, and he had those runs with the Celtics in the playoffs, but Doc Rivers, in my opinion, is a very, very good coach. And I think that what he's going to do with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, this is the year really that I think if they underperform, if not yet, I mean, if they underperform this year, one of them is going to get traded. It's probably going to be Ben Simmons. They already are in trade talks with James Harden, so I think especially if they add a guy like James Harden, that's kind of might have a little bit of an effect on if they're a top 3 seed too. But I just think the addition of the shooters and then the guys in the front office, obviously Daryl Morey's there too now. So yeah, I could see them completely underperforming, but I could also see them being a solid team finally.
All right.
Sweet.
Peyton.
Well, I've got Nets at 2. You know, debated them with 1, but just with the Bucks, you know, basically dominating the East in the regular season each of the last 2 seasons. You know, I put the Nets at 2. I think they're probably a better team overall. I just expect a little bit of load management sort of deal from them, especially with Kevin Durant with the Achilles tear, as well as Kyrie with whatever he's got going on.
His antics.
I mean, he's
Sage.
gonna like
Yeah, his sage
incense.
burning. He's
I was
going to
about
burn
to
his
say,
fingers in the sage.
maybe he's got something wrong with like his immune system or something. I don't
Some
know.
weird shit. All right.
But the Nets are a very, very good basketball team. It's going to be interesting to see how good Steve Nash is as a coach. But I really liked their stand-in coach from last year who ended up re-signing as an assistant. So
Yeah,
I think that'll be a good team.
All right. I got Nets too as well. I really just I think they're honestly, you said everything, Ben. They're a better team, in my opinion. I think the Bucks are going to be a better regular season team, though. So playoff wise, I actually think the Nets are a better team, but I'm not going to say the Bucks are worse regular season, especially questions. Kyrie, we don't really know. Steve Nash. There's a lot of questions, but from what I've seen, not to put the preseason too much into play, but Kyrie and Kevin Durant looked incredibly good, very good. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I got Nets at 2 also. I think they're gonna they have a better chance of winning a championship than the Bucks, in my opinion. Big question is if Kyrie and KD is gonna work. I think it definitely will. Especially that Kyrie is not the number 1 guy really. It definitely worked in Cleveland with LeBron. KD's back and looking good so far. Right. But Kyrie's great. KD's great. I'm glad they didn't trade for a third star because guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert off the bench for them. They got some great bigs, DeAndre Jordan, and then Jared Allen. Those are some great players. They didn't do anything crazy in the offseason, and I think that was good for them. I think Steve Nash is going to be a good coach. Like their assistants, like you guys said, I think they'll be better than the Bucks in the postseason. But I think we all have Bucks at 1.
Yep, I would just say any
Correct.
team that has Drew
Yeah, it's
Holiday
a
on
regular
is
season.
bound to be a 1 seed.
Yeah, you got Giannis locked up. Everybody's happy there. Regular season team, I just feel like they're really predictable, which is why kind of in the final or kind of in the playoffs, I think the Nets will be better. But regular season with with Mike Budenholzer and the Bucks, you'll be called crazy if you don't have them won, honestly. But
Yeah, to go back to my small forward list, I think Chris Middleton is a little bit better than Jason Tatum. So I've got to say they've got some pieces down there in Milwaukee. Nah. With all that said, I do really like the Bucks. Giannis, obviously, this is a big year for him, though. If he can't, this is low key. It's not finals or bust because the Nets are such a threat, but they have to at least get to the conference finals. Like, if they can't, I'm very worried for them because I also Budenholzer with the whole like not giving Giannis enough minutes last year. I get he was like a little banged up, but 30
I'm glad
minutes
they
a
did
game.
something though.
Yeah, I don't know. It was good to see a small market team keep their star. That's what I like to see.
Yeah.
And I think adding Drew Holiday, in all seriousness, is going to be massive.
It will be.
Because that one season the Pelicans were in the playoffs, he was able to guard the other team's best player and had multiple 30-plus point games in that series against Portland. And then against the Warriors, he's a guy that essentially guarded Kevin Durant the entire series. So he's very versatile defensively, and he's also an incredible scorer when it comes to the playoffs. So I think he adds another element to that Bucks team, a lot more creation than they had previously. And I'm excited to see what that team can do in the playoffs. I mean, I don't have any questions on whether or not they'll get there. It's just what sort of stuff they can do once they get in.
Mm-hmm. I think they have a lot better chance just because Drew Holiday is such an upgrade from Bledsoe, despite even though they gave their entire future away essentially.
Entire's been a stretch.
They gave 3 firsts. That's 3 in 2 pick swaps. That's 5 total first rounds. Moved.
As a Pelicans fan, I was okay with it.
I'm sure you would. And I think if it pans out, they'll be fine with it too. So.
All right, boys. Well, that was a good list. We will definitely get our Western Conference Finals picks up soon after this one. So thank you. It was girthy, but it was good. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.